from London, we broadcast everywhere. We love you wherever you are, we really do not care. Driving down the Kingsway or sitting on a stand, you think we have it sorted, but we have nothing planned.
The Cab Chat Show. Oh, I fucking love these geezers.
Well, welcome to Cab Chat again. We're back again. We keep doing this thing.
It's just part of life now, mate.
It is just part of life now. It's something that we're getting around to doing every single week. We're consistent. Consistency is the name of the game, and we've become consistent again. It's amazing.
If we talk about us being consistent, are we still consistent? Is it like one of these sort of terms that someone like endows upon you and go, "You are consistent, you boys"? Oh, thank you. Didn't realise.
I don't know. But every time I log on to this Riverside programme, the camera angle seems to change.
Yeah, you was on
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. But as I said, I'm going to put some things behind me to make it look more aesthetically pleasing for future shows. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to be for the next one, but it will be coming. You'll see the transformation, because this has never been used as a podcast studio. It was always used as it was, but not for video, so you couldn't see anything. But yeah, you can see what's in the background now, so need to sort it out, and all the rubbish I've got around me at the moment. I'm not a very tidy person with my desk. I tend to pile bits of paper up, and I need to become a bit more organised, really.
Yeah. I'm going through a sort of a transitional phase as well with desks and things like that, but it's all part of the game, really. It's all good fun. And maybe it could be justified if we get more people follow us and subscribe us and share it with friends. So who knows, if we get to the elusive 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Do you know what? I haven't even looked at what we're at the moment.
Oh, okay.
I haven't even looked.
Whilst Jamie's looking for that exact number, if you're on YouTube at the moment, just go hit that little subscribe button, because that helps. Because Jamie's doing a lot of all this stuff out of his own pocket, and obviously there's no revenue that comes through this, so to host it, to pay for the Riverside software, that would all be good if we can get to that 1,000 and make it monetised.
We're up to 244 now, which is quite good, seeing as we only had 60 when we started.
Yeah.
So that is quite good.
And more of you listen than that, so that needs to go up.
And we've had 11,800 views, 1,300 view in hours, which is quite good, and lots and lots of comments, all very positive. I think we've only had one negative comment. The thing that I find quite funny though is the likes, the thumbs up, right? And it says you've had 96% likes, so like 4 people have given it a thumbs down.
I don't know if you can still thumbs down or I don't know if you can thumbs. You can.
Yeah, you can still. Yeah,
but that might just be 96%. Oh no, because that will be like. Yeah, it's not like everyone's thumbed up and no one's thumbed down, or like 96% of the viewers are thumbs up and none's thumbed down. Yeah. So some people have actually thumbed down. I bet they're the best people, though, who watch every single episode.
Every single week. One of our most loyal watchers two of our most loyal watchers is Aziz.
Yep, thanks Aziz, yeah.
And they both watch. Well, the Cab's actually watched yet. He's become a bit incommunicado at the moment, so he's disappeared off the face. He does this, though, every now and again, so... I know he's renewing he's still probably trying to renew his cab driver's licence. It took him like 8 months last time, so...
I feel like that was a constant saga of Cab Chat. It might have not been called Cab Chat, it might have just been called...
I think by the time he actually got his licence last time, it was time to start the renewal process again, so... it was an ongoing saga, really. So what we're going to be talking about this week, we're going to be talking about social media, and cab drivers on social media is going to be the main topic of conversation in this week's show, because I think there's a lot of things to cover. in this. Also, we're going to be talking about, will LEVC actually restart production of the TXE? Because there's lots of rumours going around the trade as to whether LEVC will restart production of the TXE, or if they do start production, will it be the same shape vehicles we got now, or is it going to be some sort of people carrier adapted for use as a taxi, which a lot of drivers are speculating that that's what it will be. Also, predictions for 2026. Have you got any predictions for 2026? We'd love to hear your predictions for the taxi trade for 2026, and then we can read them out in next week's show. So we're going to put this out on the social media later on, and we want to hear your predictions for 2026, things that you think are going to happen in 2026. Now, obviously, we've got things like autonomous vehicles coming along.
That was what's first came to my head. Yeah.
Autonomous taxi, as they keep saying them, driverless taxis. They're not bloody taxis. They haven't got a taximeter, although the younger people tend to use the word taxi for everything. They only sort of use it when it suits them. Other than that, it's always an Uber.
I hate that. Like, 'cause I've got a mate who I used to, live with some of my friends, and then they get Uber. I mean, they're up in like North London or whatever. So yeah, maybe there's less taxi availability. They just know to get an Uber. And he's like, in the same sentence or talking, he'll go, yeah, I got an Uber. Da, 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 da. And he goes, and then the taxi driver. I was like, did you get a different vehicle then?
Yeah.
No, it's the same guy. I was like, you can't use both.
Yeah.
Oh, unless it was a taxi driver on Uber, but yes, that's different.
Yeah, there could have been that. But obviously, how many taxi drivers do you actually think there are on Uber?
It's 3 figures max.
I think it might be more than.
What? So you reckon it is in the thousands?
No, I don't think it's in the thousands.
So it's in the high hundreds, you think?
Yeah, I think it's in the high hundreds. I don't think it's in the thousands. I think.
Well, that would mean about 1% of the fleet are on that.
About 0.5. Really,
0.5 would then knock that down to
600-700, something like that. I think that's probably going to be the truer figure of the number of drivers that are on Uber. I think everyone keeps saying Uber's making false claims about there being more than 500 drivers on Uber. I don't think they're silly enough to do that.
But they did say thousands, didn't they? Didn't they say we had thousands of drivers?
No, hundreds.
Hundreds, yeah. Right, gotcha.
Yeah, more than and in a couple of adverts, I think they actually mentioned the more than 500 drivers that have already joined Uber. So I don't think they'd be silly enough to say, we've got more than 500 drivers on there if they haven't actually got 500 drivers on there, because it'd be false advertising. It'd be, so, and there are laws against that. So I don't think they'd be silly enough to do that. But who knows?
You never know.
I do know there are drivers on Uber that are playing the system. Can't say any more than that. But it just makes me wonder how many are on there. Because as I've said before, now that Free Now is owned by Lyft, most Americans consider Lyft to be worse than than Uber in America. So what is the difference between being on Lyft or being on Uber?
Yeah, not a lot.
And for a new entrant into the trade who's not necessarily aware of the history of everything, the choice for them would probably be quite simple. If all you drivers are on Free Now that's part of Lyft, what's the difference between me going on Uber then? So, you've got to, you can't be in one bed and shouting out, you can't do this when you're sort of doing exactly the same, really. So, yeah. I don't know how we got onto that subject anyway.
Predictions of 2026, driverless, taxis versus Uber. Yeah.
How many drivers do you think there's going to be on Uber by the end of 2026?
Well, predictions, sorry, yeah. Oh, how many drivers can be on Uber? Is it going to be less because of the autonomous? We've already seen the autonomous out and about working, but as you've said, there's 2 drivers in there, two operators, if you will. Did you see, there was a gent who got there's a video went online who got a one of these Waymos to Parliament, not Parliament, to Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
Obviously, firstly, it was the route that it took.
Yep.
It ended up going up into like Soho and around and about.
Yeah.
So it was obviously like a scenic route. But did you see that someone, because obviously it was a time-lapsed video, and I've said this to people before when they time-lapse stuff, be careful when you time-lapse stuff because people can slow it down. In that time-lapse video, it's going around Parliament Square, it jumps a red light.
Ah, right. In that video, when it's going around Parliament Square, it was also escorted by four Metropolitan Police motorcyclists as well.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's still, so is that then give it justification for it to jump the red light?
Not really, no.
No, because it would have been the autonomous software that done it. But you can see it clear as day. It's a red, and it's
basically following the camera car that was in front of it. There was an Audi with a camera on the back of it, and it was following the camera car. And if I can get into my dash cam, I've probably got the video of it actually jumping the red light in Parliament Square, because I was coming around Parliament Square and I thought, how nice of the Metropolitan Police to go out and escort this supposed autonomous Waymo car around London when there was children's out and screaming out for, police assistance to escort them on their outings, and the Met refused. So, but they can do it for Waymo.
Yeah, well, big tech investors with a few quid.
Yeah.
Say no more.
Yeah, exactly. What happened to community? There doesn't seem to be any anymore. But yeah, an interesting thing about the Waymo autonomous vehicles, apparently it takes 2.5 people to keep that vehicle on the road 24 hours a day.
As in...
Yeah. To make sure that it's operating, make sure it's working, and the 0.5 is the people that clean it. Because obviously, when you've got a private hire vehicle or a taxi, it's the driver that drives it, it's the driver that makes sure it's still operating, it's the driver that cleans it. There's only one person to make sure that autonomous vehicle's operating 24 hours a day. Apparently they need 2.5 people per 24-hour shift to make sure it continues to work. Waymo's ultimate aim is to get it down to one person per 100 vehicles. But apparently they are a long way away from achieving that. They're currently at 2.5 people per 24 hours per vehicle. So in actual fact, to operate 100 vehicles, they need 250 people. Which begs the question as to whether it would actually be cost effective in the end, because those vehicles apparently are around £200,000.
Well, when it got announced, the government were basically saying, this whole autonomous vehicle industry is going to generate 50,000 new jobs, which obviously it assumes they're not that efficient, because there's lots of people involved, not just like from the logistical driver side of things, but officey sort of admin-y kind of roles. Then of course, like we mentioned, it didn't factor in obviously all the private hire drivers, taxi drivers, they're going to lose their jobs sort of in the process, Yeah, I think my view on it, I think it's very much it's here. It will eventually take over. I know you said, why are you talking about this? Because it's, we want to be encouraging the taxi, the knowledge and stuff like that. We're a bit safer as taxi drivers for the time being, but it's just going to be, I think, a few fun years before it actually gets...
It's quite interesting because you've used them over in Texas, but most Americans that I've done tours for last year, I asked all of them whether they would actually use driverless taxis. And do you know what the resounding answer was? No.
The thing is, there's a big difference between...
I think it's the age group as well.
Well, there's a big difference as well between using one in, say, like a congested kind of city where you're not going too fast, to then, would you feel comfortable going up the M11 to Stansted Airport in one at 70 mile an hour?
I wouldn't feel comfortable in one full stop, to be honest with you.
Well, I found it oddly comforting when I was
I'm probably a bit of a control freak, so I didn't feel comfortable at all. But nearly every single person I took on a tour last year, bearing in mind they said, most of them said, we've got them in our city. And I've said, would you use them? No, definitely not.
Yeah. It'd be interesting how they roll it out here as well, because when I was in Austin, Texas, the way that you had to get one was that I looked online about how you would do it because you needed the Uber app. So shock horror, I used Uber. I had the Uber app downloaded on my phone. Shit.
Oh dear.
You can basically, if you request a car, there could be a likelihood that you just get one anyway. Like there's no driver about. That's the nearest one. You could then have more chance of getting it if you requested like an electric one and whatever, and then that one turned up, and we had to cancel a few to get to that one. But it'd be interesting if that's going to be the same here in the UK, or if they're going to just roll it out as, no, this is the electric one to really get people on board with it.
I don't know.
Or if the fact that if you request it, you get a driver, you go, right, we got a driver that time, should we try again? We'll get a driverless one, and then people use the system.
There's obviously going to be the novelty factor when it first gets launched.
Massively.
And then I think after that, if you only need a few bad things, especially with British people, you only need a few bad things like what's been happening in America. I mean, people are producing comedy skits now with these Waymo cars dancing around the streets, reversing backwards and forwards and trying to get around each other, bashing into each other. You only need a few bad things like a car driving someone into a flooded road in this country, and that will put off huge chunks of people from actually using it.
Yeah, like one particular instance, and that could be all it takes to just kind of just ruin the credibility of it all.
Yeah.
I've got two things whilst it's sort of just top of mind. Number one, we've already had driverless cars or driverless transport in London, and it's not the DLR if you're thinking that's where I'm going. Can you think where else in London we've already had? I think we've still got it, a driverless system.
Heathrow Airport.
Yes, the pod parking.
Pod parking. On tracks, really, though, isn't it?
Yeah. But in theory, that could do the same without the tracks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the pod parking can't because it don't steer really as such. It's
but that hasn't really taken off,
No,
really. That should be, because that literally takes you right into the terminal from parking.
Yep.
So it's more efficient than the other modes.
Though.
But it's not amazingly more expensive than some of the parking.
You know what people are like, they're tight.
And also, it only serves that one terminal.
Terminal 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't know. I personally wouldn't feel comfortable in one. But yeah, I mean, we've sort of gone off track.
My second point, sorry, in relation to something bad happening and then it just puts off people from using them entirely. If you've ever been to America, you'll know there's a very popular water brand called Dasani. Do you know Dasani?
No.
Okay, so I believe it's part of Coca-Cola. It's one of Coca-Cola's brands. And basically, it's just tap water. Filtered tap water.
Sounds
obviously
like Peckham Spring, only Fools and Horses.
Now, this is exactly what happened. So they tried launching Dasani in the UK right around the time when that was still in popular, on Only Fools and Horses, the Peckham Spring water was in vogue. And then once people understood that it wasn't like, Alpine water that's bottled or whatever, it's just tap water, which is fairly commonplace in America. A lot of their waters are tap water. But when people are like, oh, Coca-Cola just bottling tap water, this is Peckham Spring water, tabloids got hold of it, there was all press cuttings of it, and then they had to pull out of the UK because everyone in the UK just didn't buy it.
Well, that was actually at the Coca-Cola plant down in Sidcup, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was happening. They was doing that. Yeah, when it came out, it was just tap water. People just went, why do I want to buy tap water? It comes out of the tap anyway. What's the point? I might as well just get an empty bottle and fill the bottle up from my own tap rather than paying them to bottle it for me and buy it for them.
But nail in the coffin was Only Fools and Horses and Peckham Spring water. That was
so the idea is we've got to make some Only Fools and Horses videos and put them on social media using autonomous vehicles doing silly things, and that'll be it all over.
Driverless, the episode where they had the inflatables inside of the three-wheel van.
Yep. So, one of the things we was going to talk about this week and really get stuck into was social media and cabbies on social media and the use of social media within the cab trade. Mainly centering around things like Twitter and the way in which cab drivers converse with each other on Twitter. Because we've seen over and over again where cab drivers, a couple of examples are a passenger says that they've had a bad experience in a Uber vehicle, and rather than cab driver saying, really sorry to hear that you've had a bad experience, maybe next time try a black cab. You may be a lot safer and enjoy the experience a lot more. You'll get replies like, oh, got no sympathy for you, you want to use the shit and it's your problem. You know, things like fuck you and things like that. And this is all publicly viewable.
Yeah.
And does us no favours whatsoever.
Even in the first interaction, it's not good. But like you say, there's a second fact that it's publicly viewable. Yeah.
Yep. So it's not great for us for cab drivers to reply to people like that. You know, yeah, we all think that, but there's an old saying when you're going to post something on social media, you know, type it out and reread it, and then think about it. And if it don't sit right, don't post it.
I sit on stuff like overnight, you know, usually most stuff overnight, and then the gut feeling has enough time to digest it.
I mean, doing something sort of in the spur of the moment is always 99% of the time is the wrong thing to do, the wrong thing to post on social media. You know, there's no way you're going to win a passenger over from using private hire or Uber to using taxis if you say got no sympathy for you. Yeah, you want to use the shit. It's your own problem.
And people have that disdain in real life as well. If they catch wind that they were trying to request an Uber, they somehow treat them like they're a different passenger. If they get in their cab, like, oh, you was going to get an Uber a moment ago, I'm not doing it. And it's entirely the wrong ethos to have. And where I first learnt this was years ago when I worked for Apple, right, huge company or whatever. And they had these kind of, they're like rules, but it's called a credo, and it was kind of like their manifesto of like what we do, like, you know, we look after our people are our most important asset, etc. And one of the important things in there was that we just only speak favourably of third-party competitors. So the idea was if someone came in the shop and was like, oh, do you have like a Google or a Samsung phone or whatever, because, you know, they might be old, they don't understand the brand, you don't go, they're crap, no, don't buy them, but, you know, you just see it from their point of view. And the way the visual metaphor I think about this is that Gordon Ramsay or like some high-end Michelin star restaurant doesn't get upset when McDonald's releases a new burger or has a new item on the menu. They just stick to what they do. They know their USP, they know what they're good at, and they know that the decent people will come. And every time you respond to someone who's had a bad experience in an Uber, or every time you know, just use it as, oh, Uber, don't like Uber. Even like when you get passengers in and they go, oh, what'd you think of Uber? You just, you know, just always try and frame it in a positive light. Like, there's no need to, because the second you do it, the second you say they're crap, I don't like them or whatever, as much as I truly might think that, it then makes our service look terrible, makes me look awful as a driver. Whereas the higher elite people, like I said, if you imagine Gordon Ramsay or someone in like in a restaurant world or whatever, they don't need to shit on people below them because they know they're already the best.
Yeah.
The best don't ever do that.
And we are the best in the world, and we don't need to slag other people off. So cab drivers really need to refrain from replying to passengers, you know, users, customers, potential customers in that way. You know, you can't go on and say to them, it's your own fault. You know, you want to use the rape app. You know, you're lucky you didn't get raped, and you're lucky you got home in one piece and things like that. And you can't keep doing that. You know, you've got to, I think one of the great people that does things like this is Sean Paul Day.
It's kind of who was already sort of in my mind.
He replies and says, you know, really sorry you've had a bad experience, but maybe next time try using a London taxi, a black cab, and he puts it in such a way that he's sort of trying to endear them over to use and encourage them into using a black cab, not sort of trying to stop them from using private hire. He's trying to encourage them to use a black cab rather than using the private hire because of their bad experience. Not slagging them off for their bad experience and thinking that would make them use a black cab instead, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably think of many examples of things that, adjacent to the taxi trade that we would do ourselves, that we have a bad service with, and then it might take a few times to go, oh, actually, maybe I should do it a different way. Like maybe you order something online and it comes with a certain courier, and you go, right, I've had enough bad experiences with that courier now. I'm going to go with someone else. But if I have a bad experience with every, and I go, where's my parcel gone missing? UPS reaches out to me and says, Tom, you're a bloody idiot for using every. You complete knobhead. You expect, you deserve everything that's coming your way, you cheapskate.
Yeah, Nevery. It's in the video, Nevery.
Nevery, yeah. DHL, day and a half late.
So yeah, if you're replying to a passenger that's used private hire or Uber on social media, don't start slagging them off. It's a public forum.
Use it as an opportunity to positively spin it. Always positive intentions. Always.
Yeah, 100%.
Never. Yeah, because every interaction you have is then something you can then give to someone. They can then take away and go, oh wow, I didn't know that, And it doesn't have to be like a hard sell. It could just be, and the same with like the Apple example. They even said to us, like we'd have like elderly people that would come in with like, I don't know, like a Google phone or something, and they wouldn't know because they look at the Apple store and think, oh, this is a phone shop. And I was there in Apple uniform helping them out with a Google phone that I have no clue about. But imagine that though, they went, oh, that shop I went to, he was really handy and helpful in there. Yeah. I'll go back there.
Yeah.
And it's that same thing applied.
An Apple phone.
Sorry?
You end up buying an Apple phone the next.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one thing that we should not be doing. Also, cab drivers arguing amongst themselves on social media. My life, it just really, really does show us in a bad light.
But some love the kind of the tussle, don't they? I think that's the ultimate problem. Some people love setting off fireworks.
Yeah.
Getting down in the mud.
And like watching it explode and see what the outfall of it is, and the fallout, not the outfall, the fallout of it is, and then they sort of, they'll let the sort of the other drivers get into an argument, and then every so often they'll throw another grenade back into the centre to try to keep it going again. Why do you do it?
Yeah. It's our job that lonely and isolating that's the only form of maybe, we need.
This is a consequence of losing all of our eating facilities that have disappeared.
I was just thinking about that, like a communal space where you can get these ideas out.
Yeah.
And then someone goes, no, you're an idiot.
Yeah,
what are we doing that for?
But if you want to have arguments like that, or discussions, or heated discussions, do it within the confines of a private WhatsApp group, not on a public forum, because the general public can see you arguing with each other.
Well, even to a degree on a private WhatsApp group, because you never know who's going to forward it on.
Yeah.
So again, some people come unstuck with that, and we've all seen it where various clips go viral within the cab trade, where it's like forwarded many times. You just never know who's going to forward it or who's going to spill it or whatever.
But we was having this conversation yesterday, whereas most people that make these comments behind the sort of anonymity, or if that's, I can never pronounce that word properly, but of Twitter and things like that, when they meet you in person, they would never make the same comment to your face. They're all nice and fluffy and complimentary, and whereas on the other side of their Twitter account, they're like little trolls crawling out from under a stone somewhere, and that's what I imagine.
Not their name, not their picture, just completely anonymous. And
that's what when someone sort of has a pop at me on Twitter or something like that, that's what I always imagine. I picture this little green thing coming out from underneath a stone and sitting there on their phone typing something.
A sad person.
Crawling back underneath their stone again.
Well, and usually as well, a hurt person. Only hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, yeah. Don't do it.
And it's, again, in the TfL driver handbook.
It is.
That they can take it against you for relicensing.
Yeah, and use it against you for relicensing. So it's something that you shouldn't be doing. It's, you know, it could bring your licence renewal into question, your suitability to be a fit and proper person to be licensed as a London taxi driver because of your social media profile. So, you know, a lot of things that people used to do years ago, you cannot do anymore. So you've got to really think about what you're putting out on social media and what you're saying, because, yeah, okay, you can delete tweets, but I guarantee before you've deleted it, somebody's already screenshot it.
And I believe as well in the court, I think the court precedent of this now is that if something was really big and it went to court and stuff like that, it's at the time of posting. So if you turn around and said, oh, only like 10 people saw it and I deleted it or whatever, the damage is done at the time it was posted, not the backlash and it being blowing up afterwards. So just the intention of doing it is bad enough. And a lot of people will say, well, I've got free speech, I can do what I want. It's like, yeah, but you're still posting as a representative of the London cab trade.
Oh, yeah.
It's no different than if you worked for a factory or a firm in your local town and then you go into the local square and you start slagging off and shouting stuff. Oh, he worked for that firm. Oh, right. He doesn't really look good wearing our uniform, talking like that. Yeah. Which
brings us around to the video that's been doing the rounds on WhatsApp of the two drivers having a bit of a sort of disagreement on Terminal 3 at Heathrow Airport.
Well, I don't think two drivers having a disagreement. I think one driver had his own idea and just was one-sided on it.
I mean, saying that, the Free Now driver shouldn't have been picking up where he was trying to pick up either. And if that's where Free Now are encouraging the drivers to pick up, Free Now, you need to refrain from doing that because that is wrong. Also, the driver can be banned from Heathrow Airport from even entering the airport for not abiding by Heathrow Airport's bylaws. Yes. Because he's not picking up in an authorised place. Yeah, he's trying to pick up by a bus stop and blocking the access to the bus stop blocking access to the bus stop for buses. He's by the side of the taxi rank at Terminal 3. If you're going to be picking up a pre-booked job at the airport, there's only one place you can pick the people up, and that is in the car park.
Yep.
You cannot wait at the set-down point. You cannot... I mean, stands is a little bit different because their set-down point is a set-down and pick-up point. Heathrow Airport, the only place you can pick someone up if you've got a pre-booked job is in the car park. You've got to go into one of the car parks. You cannot pick up at the set-down point or at a bus stop. It's against Heathrow's bylaws. If you've got a tag, you can have your tag revoked, and you can also be banned from entering the airport. I don't know how they'd stop you from driving in there, but effectively you can be banned from the airport. So you can be fined as well, because it's an £80 fine now for being anywhere near a terminal more than 10 minutes. And you're on ANPR now, so you're likely you're going to get an £80 fine, and with a Free Now job that's probably going to pay you £63 to go back to town, it's going to cost you money to go and do that job. So it's a pointless exercise. So if Free Now is encouraging you to pick up at a set down point or anything like that, that's totally wrong. Don't accept the job.
Yep.
Don't accept the job, and you're not going to get into arguments like this.
The passenger on the blower who's like, well, the terminal's downstairs. I don't want to go upstairs to go over to the car park. And it's like, well, sorry, that's just the rules.
That's the rules.
If you want to get a cab from the ground floor, use the rank.
Use the rank. Yeah, exactly. Use the taxi rank, and then you can get a taxi from the ground floor. So I actually had a regular customer of mine that said he was standing exactly the same place where that happened. Right. And, I normally walk across and say to him, I'll meet you by bus stop 17, but I walk over to meet him. Yeah. And he phoned me, he said, we're by the bus stop. I said, I'm just walking across. He said, can't you drive round to where we are? I said, no. He said, my wife's just had surgery on her ankle. I said, can't do it. Just cannot do it. I said, I'll walk over and meet you and I'll grab her cases and then she hasn't got to worry about it, So
It is a mega palaver if you want to do the proper pickup there at Terminal 3, because there's 2 elevators there, isn't it? You've got one elevator to get to the end of the bridge to walk over. What are you doing then? Come on.
Car park 1A.
There you go then.
Don't go into that car park. Go into car park 1A. Much easier, much pleasanter. Not as many crowds. You just walk straight across the road and into the car park, and that's it. Job done.
There we go. I learned something new.
You learned something new when you're picking up at Heathrow Airport. If you're a taxi driver, car park 1A for Terminal 3. Terminal 2's a nightmare now with the amount of private hire pickup there. I mean, one floor of the whole car park is private hire pickup. I think I annoyed them all the other week because one of my regulars came out at the private hire pickup, so I parked in the Uber pickup point. They was all looking at me. I just parked there. I got out of the cab, locked it up.
You could have been on the Uber app, you know?
Yeah, I just...
You're not taking a job yet?
Parked the cab up, locked it up, walked down and met her and brought her back and got in the cab and drove off.
Yeah.
But it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare getting out of the car park at Terminal 2 now. It really is. It's a joke, really. The amount of private hire vehicles, and I'm not being funny, there's obviously a lot of very good private hire drivers out there, but a lot of them just haven't really got a clue of how to drive. Just really haven't. Their driving ability is really bad. It does bring, it does make you question whether they've actually got a driving licence, some of them.
I think it's just the distraction of just always being on the sat-nav, isn't it? It's the same way you can be distracted anything driving, but it should be that...
The cases where people have said it's not the driver that's displayed on the app that's been driving the vehicle as well. I mean, that happens quite often. So, it does beg the question. And we've also got the thing in this country where apparently not the person that should be taking the driving test, they've been sending somebody else to take the driving test for them as well.
Yeah.
Which is obviously wrong. But we're going a bit off topic there. That's a topic for another podcast that I've got in mind, which is the standard of driving has gone down the toilet. But yeah, social media. That was a really bad display of not so much social media, of etiquette, really. I mean, he could have just gone up and had a quiet word with the driver and said, listen, mate, all these guys here have done 5.5 hours up in the car park. You're taking the piss. Also, you're not allowed to pick up here. I suggest you move on. Go and put your cab in the car park. Walk over and meet your passengers. That's all he had to say. If he didn't do that, take a photograph of him. Report him. That's it. Job done. There's no need to scream, shout and all that, because behind him there's passengers or customers walking out and walking up to the taxi rank and probably looking at him, screaming at this other cab driver, and thinking, and they're probably thinking, I hope I don't get in his cab. I hope I don't get in his cab. I hope I don't get in his cab.
Well, you just turn it down, but no, I don't want that bloke.
Yeah.
I don't want him.
Yeah. I don't know who it was. I haven't got a clue who the driver was. Don't really want to know who it was. Hopefully nobody's reported him for what happened, because that could also bring into question his suitability to be a taxi driver under TfL's new driver policy document. Yeah. Wasn't a good advert for our trade or our professionalism as cab drivers, because let's be honest, the vast majority of us are very professional. We get out, help passengers, we like to give passengers advice. We like to talk to our passengers. The fact is that a lot of them these days don't want to talk to us because they're on their phone, which years ago when I first started, I find it very strange, because when I first started driving a taxi, nobody, they weren't on their phones. Nobody had a phone. They wanted to make a phone call. A phone box driver.
The one I remember was Sylvie from the Worshipful Company, and he goes, newspaper. He goes, if your passenger didn't have a newspaper when they got in the cab,
they wanted to talk.
They couldn't get out of not talking. So you can't just sit there looking ahead. You have to talk. So unless they had a newspaper, that's the only valid excuse.
And the funny ones was when the people used to get in the cab and open the newspaper up, and you'd look in the back and think, fucking idiot, he's got the newspaper upside down. They obviously didn't want to talk, so they've just opened a newspaper up, and they're not even really looking at it. But it's just
maybe the upside down newspaper was the big "fu" to you.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Like,
"F you, John, I don't want to talk to you." Yeah, I'm putting the newspaper upside down just to prove it.
Yeah, fun stuff. You know what? I think this might segue neatly then onto our funny story segment. At the end of the last...
I'm going to bring one more point up on that before we go. Yeah, and it's the elephant in the room. Right. So there's all this thing in social media about drivers posting their earnings on social media. Yeah. And there's drivers saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be letting people know how much we earn." And then there's others saying, "Oh, but, we're just trying to encourage drivers into the trade," and things like that.
And there's Paul, Bubbles the monkey.
Yeah, Bubbles the monkey.
New nickname for Paul. Done. Right.
So, my personal view, and this is going to upset quite a few people out there, my personal view is there is no need to post what you earn on a public forum, right? If you want to encourage people into the trade, you do not need to give specifics, yeah? There is no other trade in this world that posts specific earnings on social media. They'll give you averages, rough estimates, guesstimates, things like that, but they won't post specific earnings except for Uber drivers. Uber drivers seem to like to post their earnings for some reason. I think it's to say, look, we're earning £1 a mile, but we still make a little bit of a living out of it. But there's no need for it. There really is no need for it. Yes, if you're going to post something saying, I'm earning £500 a day. No, you're not earning £500 a day. It's impossible. You've got to be some really lucky git to do £500 a day every single day of the week. It's not. It's unachievable. But if you can say there is the potential there. On a good day, you could earn £500 in a day. But by the same token, you've got to take into account there are going to be days when you're going to go out there and you're going to struggle to take £100 in a day, or just crack over just over £100. And bear in mind that to keep that cab on the road for 5 days a week is going to cost you £100 a day. So there are days when you're going to go out and you're going to barely break even by the time you've eaten. But there are going to be days when you're going to go out and you think, I've cracked it. Yeah? That's being honest. Giving people a realistic expectation. Not saying, you can earn £970 a day or you can do £500 a day. Fucking get real, will you?
Yeah, I mean, you can have those conversations in private, and at the end of the day, that's the better place to have them, because
yes, exactly.
if someone's talking with you in private and it's just like, hey, ideally like in person or whatever, like, hey, I'm thinking about getting into the cab trade. What can I, earn? Then you can go into it. Go, well, yeah, some days it's this, some days it's that, and you can have a bit more of a nuanced discussion about it. But the problem is when you put it online, like in whatever way, it's so easy to throw it all out of context.
My point is,
everything gets thrown out of context on the internet, whether
it gives customers of ours the wrong impression. Oh, them greedy cab drivers, they're earning too much bloody money, and things like that. You can see them looking in the meter in the back of the cab. You take them somewhere like, Canary Wharf, and it goes 35 quid from the centre of town. And they're thinking, well, it's only taken 30 minutes for us to get him here, and he's taking £35. That means he's earning £70 an hour. Mm-hmm. They haven't thought that it's taken you half an hour empty before you pick them up, and then when you get to Canary Wharf, you're going to go and sit on a taxi rank out there, or you're going to go to City Airport and sit there and do another 2 hours before you get another job. Then
you had to get the cab cleaned before you got there. You had to put juice in the cab, which all takes up time. I think that's the other thing as well, is it's that people, it's very easy to, because it's quite, the actual nature or the working nature of our job is very simplistic. And you just think, and then sometimes it is a case you just wake up, go straight to town and start working. You have to get the cab cleaned every single day. But I even sort of found myself guilty of doing this for 24, 25 tax year. Obviously, I do a bit of work on YouTube, and I do the cab, and now the cab's paid off, so my working pattern a week is less. I worked out my annual earnings for the year, and I worked out that I averaged about working 3 days a week in the cab. I looked at the annual earnings, looked at the 3 days in the cab, and I was like, oh, it's pretty good, that. And I kind of deluded myself, and I realised, well, hold on a minute. I always work like 2 to 11, so I'm not like daytime hours, so I'm already working at more unsociable hours. Obviously, the cab's paid off, so there's another thing you've got to factor in as well that most people wouldn't have. So you have got to be quite realistic about this, and there's so many different circumstances that make up that figure. And like I said, even me, I looked at it and thought, well, that was really good, and almost started patting myself on the back, and I'm like, right, I don't really go out in the evenings much, I don't see my friends much, you know, so these are all hidden costs to make up that number, which you can't apply that number and go, oh yeah, I could apply it to my life and I can just be on the golf course 3 days a week in the afternoon or whatever.
Yep, and people don't realise that. So, you know, actually posting earnings on social media, in my view, and I don't know what other people think, maybe you could let us know, is a no-no. Giving people an idea of...
I think an indication is probably what's better. Yeah, indication. But then it's difficult to know where do you go with the indication and then stop. You know,
not £500 a day.
No.
Oh dear. And he's never going to live that down, is he? I mean, he's getting stick on social media, and then this is what brought this conversation about social media around. Is the stick that he's getting on social media for actually mentioning that in a newspaper article, and now drivers are slacking him off.
Well, supposedly they said to him, "What's the best day you've had in the cab?" You know, and then he said that. But I don't think any time I've interfaced with like journalists and stuff online with like, you know, to do with you know, whatever article they're writing about, they reach out to me, Tom, you're a taxi driver, can you tell us about this, this and this? The journalists, and especially in big papers, don't like to twist word. They like to get it verbatim exactly how you said it. Whenever I've gone back and reread it, I'm like, oh, that sounds a bit odd, but it's exactly how I've said it, the exact intonation, my exact like sentences that I've used.
Yeah. So what you say is exactly what he said.
Well, yeah, well, he would have said it, but he said the leading question was wrong, because obviously the article will say that you go out and earn £500 a day. He said, he was asked, what's your best day in the cab? Now, I don't know, because I wasn't there for the interview, right? But as generally, especially in a big sort of journalistic entity, they don't twist, like, and they usually have transcripts of it all, like, because that's usually the best thing to say. I'm going to record it and I have it for my notes or whatever.
But this comes down to having experience of PR and being interviewed by journalists and you know, and knowing that things can be twisted and not to give the wrong impression in the first place. And you know, I'm not having a go at him for this, but
no,
it's something you've got to be aware of. If you're going to put your head above the parapet and you're going to put yourself in front of thousands or millions of people by being interviewed for a newspaper article or whatever, you've got to be aware that, you know, what you say is going to be printed. And
well, I've had it before. You think the way you sort of speak and maybe lead up to the point you're trying to make is sometimes what's get used. So I've had it before where, like, let's say I'm going to go on to explain something. The lead up, which I think is just me just sort of setting up, talking about it in a very conversational sense, is then the bit that is extracted and used in the article, not the point I was actually trying to make. And that's what happens. I still said it, it's still my words, but they've taken that a little bit out of context. But most of the time it is exactly what I've said.
So you've got to be careful the way you word things when you are being interviewed for these things.
Straight line answers, just this is it. And even putting it in your own words, you know, you can earn this, you know, and because that's what will get used, and that's very hard for it to then be taken out of context because you've given the framework of how that quotation or that sentence has to be said.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, don't post your earnings on social media. You know, give indications, give averages. If you've had a good day, there's nothing wrong with saying you've had a good day. but make it clear it was a good day. Not that is every day. There's no wrongs or right ways, but just posting actual earnings, I think, is wrong. You don't see plumbers doing it. You don't see electricians doing it. You don't see bank managers doing it. You don't see city traders doing it. I've done a deal today and I've earned so much money out of it. You don't see it happen. It doesn't happen. So what is this fascination with posting your earnings on Twitter? Ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. And you was going to say it takes us nicely into...
we were talking about funny stories.
Funny stories, yeah.
I can't remember there was something that was coming up there that was related to a story. But yeah, funny stories in the cab, because we mentioned it at the end of the last episode. We want your funny stories in the cab. What's some repeatable stories that you have actually experienced? And we thought we'd kick these off. So I don't know if you've got one ready to go, Jamie.
I haven't really, except I picked a fella up from Heathrow one night, and he was like a foreigner. Don't know where he was from, and he got in the cab and he said, "I want a hotel near Hyde Park," right? And I repeated to him, "You want a hotel near Hyde Park?" Yes. So I'm going along the elevated section of the M4, and he says, "Where are we going?" I said, "Well, you want a hotel near Hyde Park?" He said, "No, hotel near Hyde Park." And I'm thinking, what the hell's he saying? He wanted a hotel near the airport, not Hyde Park. Airport became Hyde Park. I have no idea whatsoever. So I've ended up bringing him all the way down the elevated section, got to the end, came off at Chiswick, went around a roundabout, back up again, and took him back out to the airport and dumped him at one of the hotels out there. And I thought, if I hadn't repeated it to him, I'd have thought, that's my mistake. That's my problem, But because I repeated it to him and said, "You want a hotel near Hyde Park?" Yes. So when we got back there, I charged him what was on the meter.
Yeah, well, sometimes as well with these people, I've had it, we've all had it. You repeat back exactly what they said as you've heard it, and that should be their chance to confirm it. But usually they just say, "Yes, that's what I said."
Yep.
Which is why it's never good enough. If ever in doubt, and we've all been burned by it, if ever in doubt, always get them to write it down and or show it written down.
I want to go, Billericay, I got Billericay. So he tapped into Billericay and he's, whereabouts in Billericay, do you want? Billericay Circus.
Oh, I didn't hear that one. I didn't hear that one go.
Funny story, please send it in. One of the one of the members of the team has sent one in, but I think we'll save that for a future episode when we've got a few that we can put together and put in a show. One last thing before we go this week.
I might get a story. Where's my
story?
You get a
story. Go on, if you've got a funny story.
Have one. Yeah, just a random one that came to me. I picked up a lady on Regent Street once, and it's like a bus stop passenger. And you think, okay, who have we got here then? And she gets in, she goes, "Buckingham Palace, please." I was like, "Sure, Buckingham Palace." And then she turns around and she's over the back seats, looking out the back window. Single adult female passenger. And she's looking, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And she goes, "I think someone's following me." And I was like, "No one's following you, don't worry." Next thing I know, I just hear a thud, like a tush, and I'm like, "What's going on?" She hits the deck. She's like on the floor, goes, they're coming for me. Someone's following me. And I was like, don't think they are. And then, I sort of calmed her down a little bit, try to get in the quickest way to get to Buckingham Palace, because you think, well, we'll get them there, sorted, right? Pull up out front, and you do that thing where you put the cab in neutral or whatever, lean over in the back, and you're like, how are you going to pay, or whatever, or is here okay, or whatever. Before I've even done that, the door's open, and she's just run across the forecourt of Buckingham Palace and straight up and through the gates where the armed police officers are. And I thought, I'm not getting paid.
Yeah, you're not getting paid.
Off. I don't think she was ever going to have the means of paying.
Involved in that either.
No, gone. I can't remember what it was. It was about like £8 at the time or whatever. I was like, nah, done.
You don't want to be done by association of letting a nutter off outside Buckingham Palace who's going to run the security there. No.
Yeah.
Before we go, we did say we was going to talk about this at the top of the show. Do we think that LEVC are ever going to actually restart production of the TXE? There's lots of rumours going around amongst drivers that they feel that the TXE that's it. Then once these stock that is available has gone, that's going to be it. There are going to be no more. And the LEVC will start producing a people carrier type vehicle that will be available to the private hire trade, the general public, and also as a taxi version with a hire sign on the roof and a petition inside. What do you think?
Well, I wonder, because obviously a lot of the costs in redoing vehicles and stuff. Right, let me back up. It needs the next vehicle they make will be fully electric. There is no question of a doubt. To get complied in London, it will have to be electric, and the
problem with that is, as we've already said in previous shows, then they wipe out half of their customer base completely.
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe even more than half, because a lot of drivers do not have the facility and will not have the facility to charge. There's also a lot of drivers like myself that do tours outside of London that would not be able to buy it because it will not achieve the range that we need to be able to do what we do.
Yeah. But whether that's, again, like looking at taxis and the old infrastructure, it's entirely different of it. But I had a mate who worked for LEVC, and this isn't cab drivers. Like, I've got a mate or I know a mate. Like, I had a mate who worked for LEVC, right? And it basically, when I said to him about, is it going to be, what's it going to be? He's like, it's got to be electric, because the way these auto manufacturers, the cycles they're on and the things they have to comply by and the date it's made, it was just basically going to be a fully electric. So that's for certain. Whether it, again, works in London, whether London chooses to take it on, basically if they were to make a new vehicle, has to be electric. But I feel like they've already got like the right shape of the cab, and there's all the kind of the existing architecture of the cab and the the wheel, the infrastructure basically, to change that to then a like fully electric model. That seems to be probably the correct move here, because they don't really need to change the shape of the vehicle or have come up with a brand new design or whatever, because that's where all the money's going to be. Whereas the electric's the thing they have to do. They don't have to redesign the cab. So I think it's going to be. This is not the actual answer, by the way. This is me thinking out loud what is going to happen here. So no one take this away and say, Tom the taxi driver said they're going to be doing this. No, I reckon shape of cabs we've got now, they'll do something, they'll put a badge on it, they'll make it fully electric, and it will just be an E version. They'll change the trim or something, in the same way that like a Nissan Qashqai like changes a little bit a few years later, but then it becomes fully electric. That's going to be the most sensible move. And then would have to then have another discussion about the infrastructure and how that's really going to look from a working cab driver's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of drivers are saying it's not going to be the same shape. It's going to be a people carrier type vehicle. Personally,
they have already shown that, by the way, LEVC. But whether that is then what we get as cabbies, or if that's just like by the way, we're also working on this.
Well, the problem being is, they've been selling less than 1,000 vehicles a year in previous years, and if they half their customer base, that's going to be less than 500 vehicles. In reality, you'd probably be looking at less than 300 vehicles a year. Is it really worth them keeping a factory open for 300 vehicles a year? The answer to that question is probably going to be no. I hope I'm wrong, and I do hope that the future, or the new vehicle when it comes out in 2027, is going to be offered in both electric and a hybrid version, because that will satisfy all needs of the trade rather than just the needs of our licensing authority or the current mayor at the moment. I think where taxi licensing is we have got to be, or the licensing authority has got to be realistic in future expectations. If they still want a black cab trade in London, I think having fully electric vehicles by 2030 is not an option. I think that needs to be pushed back. We've already seen that in Europe, one of the largest car manufacturers in Europe has just closed a factory in its own country. Yeah. And the factory that they closed was their electric vehicle production factory. And that vehicle manufacturer was Volkswagen. They closed down an electric vehicle factory in Germany. Apparently, it's the first time Volkswagen have ever closed a factory in Germany. And they've closed an electric vehicle factory because of the downturn. Holland has taxed electric vehicles so much that their electric vehicle sales have literally hit rock bottom. They've hit zero. So I think...
Well, the thing with electric vehicles, I don't know why it's kind of come to this, is that the keep saying architecture, but the actual running gear of an electric vehicle is fundamentally the same. It's just a motor and batteries. So there's not too much variance. Like, to get to the combustion level, like combustion engines of cars, there's so much differences between Volkswagen makes this kind of combustion engine, Ford do this. But even then, they still borrow bits, to be fair. They do share pieces. Well, electric vehicles shouldn't be like that. And I think that it was a bit of a ridiculous idea that every single auto manufacturer then decided, oh, we've got to go make an electric motor. Oh, we've been mandated to go electric. Oh. So they've all had to change. This isn't just an LEVC problem. This is, as you mentioned with Volkswagen, it's a whole automotive industry problem that they've all have to retool up and change all their whole factories and processes because of this electric thing. But everyone's all doing the same thing of going to electric. It's not like one company said we're going to do electric and these other 10 manufacturers going, oh, that's crazy, we're not doing that. They all are mandated to do this now. So the idea that was floated around that there was a few like Chinese brands that would literally produce the bottom part, like the chassis, like they call it, I think, the roller skate, right? And that would have the electric engine, electric motor rather, the batteries, and then they would just sell this part, or whatever the chassis part, to all the different automotive manufacturers, and they go, right, we'll just work on the body, we'll just work on all the infotainment and the trim and everything like that, rather than having to work out how we're going to make the motor go with the battery and so forth. So it's a bit of a, I don't know, it's a weird time really, but I think that would have been the better move if...
Yeah. But then we've got an electric vehicle at the moment that supposedly gives us an 80-mile range, and in certain circumstances doesn't give us anywhere near an 80-mile range. I mean, if I can start on, I can start heading home from, let's say, the Blackwall Tunnel, yeah, to where I live, which is less than 40 miles, with a 75-mile range on my battery, yeah? And I guarantee that before I reach home on the A2, that battery will be flat. It will not get 40 miles out of it on the motorway. It's ridiculous. On the motorway, It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a weird metric to have mileage like that, because the mileage used in town versus in the motorway is much different, because it's just the aerodynamic and drag on it is crazy.
Yeah, and to have a vehicle they say is going to do 300 miles or 400 miles, we know the reality of that in the winter is going to be nowhere. It's going to be half of that.
180, yeah.
Yeah, 180, which to me is useless. Absolutely useless. Absolutely worthless. I will end up going private hire outside of London. There's a prediction for the future.
Wow. That took a dark note, didn't it? Well, not a dark note because it's still working it, but yeah.
What option would I have? What option would I be left with? I'd be left with no option, really. If I wanted to carry on doing my tours and things like that, other than, renting a cab, you're going to go back. It's like going back to the dark ages where drivers had to return cabs to the garage so they could be put back on charge and things like that. Or and you're going to have to. But then I'm going to have to own a car that's going to be capable of driving into London to go and pick me cab.
You're going to have to leave your cab parked somewhere.
Yeah,
it's good from a tax perspective actually doing that. But
But then you're stuck to the same sort of hours all the time. You've done away with. And is that? Do I want that?
Yeah, or sharing a vehicle.
But do I want not being able to have the freedom? The main attraction to this job is the freedom. Do I want being stuck to working to certain hours and only being have certain earning potential? No, I might as well go and work for someone. So you're going to... I think a fully electric vehicle at this point in time, 2027, would be the death of the London taxi trade. There's a prediction.
That's the somber note that we're going to end on.
Well, I don't want it to end on that. I would hope that LEVC will produce a fully electric vehicle for those that want it, and a hybrid vehicle. That our mayor would be sensible, because he's already pushed the expectation for buses back to about 2037 or 2045 or something like that. I mean, that keeps getting pushed back. As I said earlier, I've seen 54 plate buses around on the streets. So one would hope that that would be pushed back a bit. Uber have already said that they're not going to meet their electric predictions for 2030 or 35, was it? And
2030 is the big crunch time.
That's going to be pushed back quite drastically because of their drivers. They said that the financial expectations of their drivers, it's not practical. So if they can realise it, it needs our mayor to realise it, otherwise he's going to wipe out the black cab trade. He will be the man responsible for killing the black cab trade in London. But we're not dead yet.
We're not dead. We're still those geezers.
LEVC will be producing a fully hybrid vehicle for the future. That's a prediction, because I think they're clever enough to know that if it was a fully electric vehicle, that'd be the end of them, really. I think that'd be the death of LEVC. So, yeah, I think they know that this, that is a possibility. So,
I want to end on something. This would be a quit. This is something I've just found in this book.
In your Odyssey,
we mentioned it in the last episode. Yeah. Someone can guess it for the next episode if they're quick with it. It might not be the next episode. It might be 2 episodes time. But there we go. Which church in London can we find a stained glass window that pays homage to golf?
Ooh, I'm not a golf player, so I wouldn't know.
Let's ask Greg Smith.
Yeah, Greg, which church can we find a stained glass window that pays homage to golf? There you go. Put that to all the golfing cab drivers out there.
If you've
got the answer to that, you might win a prize. What would a prize be, Tom?
An invitation to Pie and Mash Club.
An invitation to the Pie and Mash Club, and we will buy you pie and mash. There you go. So, until next week, if you have liked this show, please make sure you like, subscribe, share with your friends, follow, and do all those things. And if you want to leave us a funny story, you can do so via the website. You can leave us a voice message on the website. As I said, it's cabchatshow.uk. All of our social media links are on there. And that's enough from me. I've been Jamie the Cabbie.
I've been Tom the taxi driver.
And we'll see you next week.
See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We want some extra listeners, cause we think we are great. So if you like our station, then please go tell a man. If you can get some other pal to tune into our show, we promise we will have a day with ginger nuts and cocoa.
Oh, I do love ginger nuts. Oh, fucking hate ginger